Hi everyone, it's Renee. I just want to show you what I'm up to. Um, let's see. Hold on. I am working on Atlanta crime data and astrology. So I'd like to walk you through this in the next few minutes. Um, yeah, one moment. All right, here we go. So Atlanta crime data, it's this really interesting data set from 2009 to 2017. And I put the URL underneath the video. So the first step is to import that file. I'm in Mathematica, my usual haunt. And there's all these columns of information about each and every crime report to the police in those years. So, um, yeah, everything from report number, report date, occurrence time. I'm not clear on what possible date and possible time mean. I think that means if they're not clear on it. Even uh, the location in latitude and longitude across the city. So I'll be looking at a really curtailed version of this data set. And I'd like to show you how it may or may not have to do with astrology. So, this will show you some of my process. Um, what we're going to focus on is the occurrence date, the occurrence time. We know the location, Atlanta. We even know the latitude and longitude of the location. But most importantly is this UCR number. And what that is, let me show you what it is directly from the atlantapd.org website. So hold on one second while I do that. Okay, and it's not working. That's fine. Um, what it seems to be showing, if you go to that website, is that there are categories of crime, and um, they are in groups. So, for instance, in the 100 group um, is theft. So, no, I'm sorry. In the 100s are homicide, and the 200s are rape, and the 300s are robbery, 400s assault, 500s burglary, 600s are larceny of various types, 700s are motor vehicle theft of various types, 900s are arson, 1000s are forgery, 1100s are fraud, etc. So uh, we have a lot of data here. In fact, there's over 323,000 reported crimes in those years from January 1st, 2009, very first day, to very last day of 2017. And what can we know about that? Well, we can see how the total varies per day across the years, and that's what this chart here would do for us. And the total of the crimes per day show a really pretty obvious pattern of it, like an umbrella shape. So there's a peak there towards the top of this in the middle of the year. Then it goes down in the wintertime, only to rise again in the summer that follows. Now check this out. Just over halfway through, there's this huge crime wave. Um, I'm not sure what that's about, but I'm just going to take the data as it's presented to me. Here's an example entry of the very first reported crime of 2009. You can see it was a larceny non-vehicle, and I just want to show you how the dates are inputted. Um, January 1st of 2009. The time is in military time, 11:45. Um, and yeah, here's the address. Here's the code in the 600s, like we're talking about. And here's even the latitude and longitude. So, what to do with this? Well, first thing is that we have to deal with that military time. So that's what this line of code would do. And it basically splits, say, 11:45, 1145, given as the date, into 11 and 45 to make 11 hours and 45 minutes. And I needed to do that in order to use the astronomy subroutines in Mathematica. They like to use something called a date object, and so I needed to deal with the military time for that reason. Here's what those date objects are being made, um, where I take the date and the time and the time zone, which is Eastern time zone, um, and I make something that looks like this, uh, which is both a date and a time. So this, in fact, is the very last entry. And it's kind of interesting. Is on the very last day of December at 11:39 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So that's the other thing this time zone factor would do, is take into account Eastern Daylight Time versus Eastern Standard Time. Uh, you know, daylight savings, it'll compute that automatically for me. So that's nice. What happens next? Uh, I have to take into account something going on back up here in this graph, which is that you'll see there's uh, a low number of values before the 1st of January of 2009. And what those are, you can see up here where I sorted them for you. Like, there's a bunch of dates that just say like 1916 January 7th or something. And my theory on that is that somebody just wrote in 16 for the year and it meant 2016, but instead the computer coded it as 1916. So that's gonna need to be tossed out, basically, as far as I can tell. I don't want to surmise that it was 2016, as useful as that data might be. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna have to toss those. So um, that's what this line of code does. It tells me that the first day of January 2009 was 458 values in, that the first 457 values were these early 1916 type uh, dates that need to be tossed out. Out of 323,000 entries, I'm okay with just tossing out 457, but this gives you some notion of real data and the challenges of working with it. So this next bit is what is presently being computed. Um, and what it is taking each of these dates and times uh, and computing the sun degree, tropical degree, out of 360 degrees in the zodiac through something called the right ascension values. And then similarly for the moon, same deal. What's the moon position in Atlanta at that day and time? Um, that's what this line will give. And then the last thing I decided to compute for this small study is something called a, a sidereal time, which is just the right ascension of Atlanta itself, the city itself, at that date and time. And what that is a measure of the ascendant value, or the what's overhead. I forget the Latin that the tropical astrologers use, has a name, but that gives us a position, um, of the city itself. So if you just add 40, oh, no, 60 degrees, no, I'm sorry, 90 degrees to it, you get the ascendant. So there's 360 degrees in the whole of the zodiac. This is what's overhead. So uh, it's a measure of an ascendant value for the chart of that crime. So I wanted to see, gosh, this very simple astrology. So simple. Just sun position, moon position, and ascendant position. Um, can I tell anything at all about the crime? Can I predict the crime just based on the relative positions of sun, moon, and ascendant? Or more exactly, can I do it better than just the date and time and place? You see, because the date and time are very much correlated, like this graph shows. There's uh, a function of date and time that will indicate higher crime, say in the summertime, and lower crime at, either in January or December. So really, I'm looking at date, time, and place, but in two radically different ways. One, through the astrology placements, where that's all going to feed into a simple classifier, and compare its accuracy to doing the same thing, but just with the date and time. So, in other words, if there are patterns um, of sun relative to moon, relative to ascendant, that come out, that can be useful, considered useful by the AI classifier, then that would be really neat. But I'm not super optimistic with just 3 astrological indicators, but maybe it's somewhat more helpful across 330,000 values. We have a pretty good idea, like, of just the relative improvement. So I'm not expecting a huge amount of improvement. I'm not expecting 100% prediction accuracy, for example. But what if there's 10% accuracy improvement of a classifier being able to predict the type of crime? Um, that would be radical, and that's what uh, my intention is here. Um, it's just that these lines of calculating the sun degree, the moon degree, and the ascendant degree are going to um, take hours. So I wanted to make this quick video to kind of almost as a form of a registration, so to speak, where in science a registration is um, talking about what you want to do ahead of time, um, and sort of declaring what your study is versus going fishing, let's say, and saying, oh, okay, I did 10 studies, 9 did not work out. I'm not going to tell you about those. I'll just tell you about the one that does. That's not what I want to do. That's not cool. That's not cool science. And so, what is the present day ideal model is to have a so-called registration where I register my intent, and then I do the study, and then I publish that result no matter what. So that's my intention here, um, that I would do. Uh, this is going to take a few more hours to compute, um, just the astrology placements. So while that's going on, um, I finished the coding. Um, you can see it here for the classifier, and for getting the measurements, I'll just uh, get those results after the astronomy data is complete in a few hours. So that's the study. That's what's going on. Um, Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side when I have some data for you. Thanks.